By the way, I'm very happy that Davis is also one of the few that came in a podcast type studio. Yeah. I mean, he's looking good.
He looks good. He's got glasses like us. Sam, hide your face.
Fuck. Yeah. Sorry. Wait, what happened? Is he?
Sam's not wearing glasses. He's not. He's one of these kids is not like the other.
Yeah. He doesn't need it.
He thinks he's better than us.
Oh, there he goes.
Oh, yeah. There we go. Problem solved.
Thank you, Davis.
From ABM to PLG, from medic to medpic, the world of business is constantly evolving. We'll cover the who, what, where, when, why, and most importantly, how you get the transaction. I'm Matt Amundson, and he's Craig Rosenberg. Let's get started.
All right, so guess what? I got to start this one a little different because I'm not sure, Matt, do you know what Davis has been doing?
Well, I studied a little bit on LinkedIn. I will say I crammed for the final.
Exactly. So we got to you can get some color and context with it. But look, here's the deal, everyone. So first of all, Davis, I will give you this fun fact about Matt Amundson, my co-host, is also my sons. I have twins. Their football coach.
It's true.
And we won this. We basically won all our bowl games to win the state. Would you say, Matt, last year?
I would say that. So yeah, that's correct.
Isn't that wild? So we do B2B sales and marketing stuff because we work together too. And then we do the podcast. Andy's the coach of my kids. And so we have to clarify when we do phone calls. We have to say, is this business Matt, podcast Matt, or football coach Matt?
That's right.
And also, he cosplays other coaches in the league, so sometimes I have to clarify. No, I mean Matt, not the other coaches.
I've been building AI agents of my competitors. Just get inside their head.
Actually, I think that might be interesting on the B2B side.
Yeah, just have it analyzed game film.
Yeah. So I met Davis. God, it was just a couple months ago, really. And he's building a killer future topo / serious decisions advisory research company, and focused on ABM. So this will be great. And he's new, talking about ABM. I mean, you're not new, Davis, but like you have a
new take,
fresh point of view coming into the market, which is big because the old ABM stuff's just boring retread stuff. So, and we would not make the show. So anyway, so we met, and then he's like, hey, do you want to do this thing? It's like demand based. So like, they're in the portfolio. So it's like, we've just the relationship's sort of taken off. And I'm like, you got to get on the podcast. And that's how we got here today. But Davis, before we go, tell Matt and the audience a little bit about, and we never do this, by the way, we never let people advertise, but in this case, we do need this. So tell us more about your business and what you're trying to do these days.
Yeah, let's do it. Well, thanks so much for having me, and for the intro, Craig. So a little bit about ForgeX. We're, again, the market research and advisory firm, but we focus so intensely on actually bringing modernization and innovation to account-based go-to-market strategies. We bring up topo too in a lot of our calls, where it's like, ever since 2019, after the acquisitions happened, we have this 6-year gap where everybody's been regurgitating the same ABM concepts, deployment models. The research hasn't been strong either. So we wanted to take a fresh take and, actually study the market, see where it's going, build some new models, conduct the new research. And now we're blending in the account-based side, but we're also digging into AI too. So, how is that impacting the go-to-market strategy? How are marketing leaders thinking about building their functions? And so it's been really cool.
There you go.
Love it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I knew you would.
Part of the reason why we started this podcast is we just kind of both agreed that, the old playbook just wasn't working. And, ABM was more than just kind of like a blip in the radar, right? Like this was this big movement. And then there came the next big wave, or one of many next big waves, being AI. And how the interplay between those two, I think, is is something that's really essential. And so, when I was looking through some of the research reports, just putting together, how you're sort of finding the inflection point between ABM and AI, I think is some of the things that people are really curious about. It's not just, I think most people know that there's a way to turbocharge their go-to-market strategy, be it ABM or any other methodology using AI, but a lot of people just don't know how, right? They can see how they come together, but like, how are other companies doing it? What tools are they using? What changes in the way they do reporting? What changes from an operational perspective? And there's just been, to your point, Davis, there's been a little bit of a recycling of the old playbook that like Craig and Scott were largely responsible for building and sort of educating the market on how to do. But that's just that it just doesn't work in the new AI world. So we're both Craig and I are super curious to get into what you're seeing out in the market and what these changes are, how these changes are impacting people's businesses.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. Sorry, Davis, were you going to say something?
Oh, no, Craig, you go.
Actually, before we go, you guys, since you said interplay, I just have to ask you guys.
Whoa.
I'm going to ask Davis first. The Coldplay Affair concert thing, have you guys seen this? It is unbelievable.
That is so bad. And the worst part about it, too, was he had the newly appointed VP of the HR department there in the background, which was the worst.
It was, I mean, there's so many ironies in this. By the way, have you dug into this at all, Matt? You looked perplexed, which is weird. You're very hip, and you read Perez Hilton and all these things. So I'm surprised.
I'm sorry. Did you make a 2007 reference to online gossip rag Perez Hilton? Yes,
I did. Yeah.
That makes me quite hip. The fact that I read that. No, I was. It was funny because I had to jump off this call for a couple minutes. I was here on time. But HR wanted to have a quick chat because we actually did a social post involving the meme from that, and I was like, do you want me to take it down?" And they were like, "No, it's cool, it's hip, it's happening everywhere right now." They were just kind of surprised because largely our social media is just like awards and thought leadership and press releases and stuff. So I was like, "Oh shit, am I in trouble?"
So he got caught cuddling with the people leader. To top it off, her new VP of HR was there, embarrassed, called out on the kiss cam, and then Chris Martin commented on stage as well and realized what happened, right? Because he's like, what a cool moment. Oh, wait, maybe it's not a cool moment. You might be having an affair or something. Oh, no, I hope they didn't get in trouble. I mean, it is incredible. You
say cuddling, I say canoodling. I like a canoodling there.
Let's do a poll. Yeah. Canoodling or cuddling. Yeah. All right. So, Davis, speaking of amazing things, how about if we start with the show? So we have two main questions. The first one is we like to hear any kind of fun, exciting, scary, heroic, or funny. We love funny. Go-to-market stories from you, anything that you've seen out there in your travels or in your personal experiences. And then we'll dig into the second part. We want to get into this one will be amazing on the ABM side in particular, the 1 to 3 things you're seeing that are working today. In this really interesting, frankly, go-to-market environment. All right, so those are the two things. The first one is you got to tell us a story, and no pressure, but we do judge you.
Yeah.
On your story.
The entirety of this podcast will be measured on the story.
And if it doesn't go well, we're shot. We're done.
Well, we'll just shut it down. We will just shut it down.
I have a good first big marketing mess up.
Yes.
That I ever in my career.
Thank God, Jesus! I was worried about this guy. All right, there we go. We love marketing.
Yes.
Marketing mess up. Thank you.
This was my first job out of school.
Yes.
We love these.
Living in my parents' house
Mm-hmm.
for the first couple months. So I was working at a company called Pegasystems,
Oh yeah.
Fairly large company, $1 billion in revenue. And I just joined their ABM team. They completely transitioned their demand gen to deeply focusing on ABM. So they're, going into it for the first time, trying to figure it out, partnering with all the large, uh, you know, analyst firms or consultancies working through it. And I was commuting like 2.5 hours both ways from Windham, New Hampshire
Mm-hmm.
into Cambridge every single day. And so ended up moving into Cambridge, found an apartment there with a couple of really great roommates. And one of the first large projects that I was tasked with owning end to end for our financial services vertical ABM team, we were doing a webinar and, put in a pretty decent amount of investment behind it,
Sure.
in a thought leader for the webinar, did the full day, the script, had a room that was dedicated, brought in, food and breakfast for this person, and also the subject matter experts from the Pega side who were chatting through it. They had a kick-ass webinar. They recorded it, did the full thing. We had it edited. And then the day of recording, I'm in my parents' basement. I was back home for this, relaxed, thought we had everything set up, and join it. We had strong registration. We made a full push on the sales team, got the VP of sales involved to help push the registrations too. So everything was firing, everything was cooking. Get on the webinar, and a different webinar pre-recorded plays. This was the first oh shit moment that I've ever had in my career where I'm like, oh my gosh, we just invested probably 30, 40K into this, and we have the wrong webinar playing. Everybody signed up for it. This was my first time owning it end to end. And that was a very interesting day. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get fired. I'm done. I'm canned. There goes ABM
Yeah.
career
Yeah.
right off the bat.
And were you
All right.
fired?
No.
Right?
You survived. Good for you.
I survived.
Yes.
We
Well,
made it.
I think this is great. So, Matt, would you have fired Davis?
Of course, instantly. I
Like on the spot?
No, come on, man. The thing about marketing is like everybody has a story like that, right? In
Yes,
some way or
exactly.
another.
That's
I
I thought you were going to say that. Yeah, I mean that's.
we've
true.
heard the stories, and so many of them around webinars. Honestly, this is like the
Yeah,
second
the
marketing webinar story, which is just to say, like on 24 or GoToWebinar, what the heck were you guys doing? Like, you were the bane of many a marketer's existence with like some of these issues, because better software could have solved a lot of these things, and probably, look, if you're going to live to be 95 at this point, you're going to now live to be like 89. The pure stress of that probably just shaved a solid 6 or 7% off the end of your life.
This hairline, Matt,
Yeah.
it's that webinar is going right into this.
Yeah. Trust me.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is my old hairline. Just pure webinars, man.
Yeah.
Oh man, it is a. Webinars have been and continue to be fraught with peril.
Yeah, because
They
Craig
are.
had the Guy Kawasaki story. We had the dog story.
What dog story?
Sam McKenna's
Oh yeah,
story. Yeah.
yeah, that was good. Actually. Wow. So hey, Sam, you should do a cut on webinar. Just not fails, but Davis just made it a 3, so that means we'll have 3 good cuts on that. I love it.
Oh yeah.
All right, good job, Davis.
We can continue with the
we can move
podcast.
on.
You made
Let's
it
talk
through
some
the first
ABM.
gate.
Yeah, jeez, man, that was nerve-wracking. God, I thought the guy he should have. Oh, sorry, my screen froze. But okay, so let's dig in. This is going to be really interesting for Matt and I. I don't know if historically my history, but Matt was at Everstring and was really one of the thought leaders in account-based back in the day. Sorry for the back in the day, Matt.
No,
but
that's
it is
okay.
True. It was pre-pandemic, and really pushing the market. I thought you had Matt had a really great point of view because he had, he also owned sales development, so like he could help people, get this stuff to more of a reality than others in the space. And so we both love this.
Yeah.
And we both would love to hear the 1 to 3 strategies or tactics or plays or however you want to talk about it. But the things that are working today, and just, let's take the show the rest of the way with that.
Let's do it. Made it through the initiation of the go-to-market.
Barely. Yeah.
Getting a little worried there for a second.
Yeah. So give us some, you can, just however you want to talk about it. We want to hear what's working.
Let's do it. Okay. So it's interesting on the evolution and almost the way in which ABM is modernized. I'm sure you both have seen a million times, just like all your viewers, that traditional pyramid looking shape where you have 1 to 1 at the top, 1 to few in the middle, 1 to many at the bottom. And that came out in the 2010s, 2016 to be, specific with it. Serious Decisions was really pushing their 1 to few. That came out around 2015 along with their roadshow. You have Sangram, who did a great job really pushing the flip my funnel messaging. Mm-hmm. And then after that, again, that 2019 period, we haven't seen a lot of innovation since.
Totally.
And what we were seeing in the market, and this is one of the reasons why we even started ForgeX, like some of the initial thoughts were, okay, we're getting a lot of inquiries on LinkedIn for consulting help, or, how do I launch a successful ABM program? But we were thinking, all right, maybe there's a ABM agency play or consultancy play. But when we really started digging into the market, it's like, our perception on the practice and the way it's being, deployed in both really large enterprises and then also some of the smaller companies, it's different than how a lot of these traditional consultancies or even the research firms are positioning it. So we had a unique take, and the way in which we're seeing ABM being deployed right now is, through a few different modernized deployment models. So we segmented it up into really 3 buckets. So if you can imagine that the traditional pyramid, at the top we have 1 to 1 and 1 to few, and we call those enterprise ABM. And the way in which we define 1 to 1 is you're building a really personalized, through deep research, highly bespoke campaign covering multiple opportunities in one account, multiple business units, multiple buying groups. 1 to few is the segment-based campaign or a cluster-based campaign of 25 accounts or less. And then growth ABM is what we have for a operating model around 1 to many. This was one of the biggest pieces or disconnects that we were seeing, where some companies would say that they're deploying 1 to 1 to 25, 50 accounts per each practitioner. So one practitioner can't cover 50 accounts and actually leverage 1 to 1. It's more of a what we call growth ABM deployment model, or a growth ABM strategy. So that is where you get the coverage across hundreds or thousands of accounts using a tiered methodology. I think this aligns closer, Craig, to Topo and what you all were leveraging, where you have these distinct tiers, usually 3, sometimes 2, depending on if you can actually make a difference between how you go to market and what some of the tactics are that you deploy in the campaign. But the accounts are segmented by tier based off of how many resources you want to deploy into the account, based off of what you're going to get from an informed revenue potential, or what makes sense for your go-to-market strategy. So you have enterprise ABM at the top, 1 to 1, one to few, growth ABM at the bottom, which gives you that operational framework for one to many. It brings that scale. This is where we're seeing a lot of integrated marketing teams, demand gen teams transition into. And that transition is coming from the top down. It's, the VP of marketing or the CMO is trying to figure out how we build this holistic account-based go-to-market strategy. So those are the main deployment models. And then we also, if you can picture almost like, on the side of the pyramid, our third deployment model is deal acceleration. So this would be adding supplemental support, additional resources for one specific deal, either to help give it some extra juice to create it, or usually where we see it being applied is there's an open opportunity that's fairly large or really important. How do we give it that one-to-one ABM style treatment in the account instead of, giving it a full one-to-one enterprise ABM strategy where, again, you're covering, multiple buying groups, multiple business units, multiple opportunities in that account. So it's a lighter, more streamlined and targeted approach.
So can we talk about it? Well, Matt, are you cool? I'd like to talk
Very cool.
about growth ABM. Can we do that? So what are well, let me make a comment. One of the things that I definitely have seen, I'm working with way earlier stage now than and one thing that's been really encouraging has been targeting. I feel like the new sort of go-to-market founders, the folks coming to market that used to think, well, we're just going to, sell to everyone. I'm seeing more and more where people are defining an ICP that's not sophisticated but smart. And that to me is a victory, because when we put a name on it like ABM or account-based, like we did, called it account-based, and it was like you put the name on it and it sounds like this big lift.
Yeah.
When in reality, in my opinion, the biggest victory is less the one-to-one, because the one-to-one, like if you went to SAP 30 years ago, that was there.
Yeah.
Right? They would do that. They threw the whole book at one, these accounts. But if you growth ABM, as you describe it, that should be widespread, and that should be your baseline go-to-market, especially if you're doing any type of outbound. But like even Matt, is driving tons of inbound, but he knows who he wants to bring in. And, he's planting himself there. So that's why I want to talk growth ABM. I feel like that's the key that you can apply across the board. And it should be like your baseline go-to-market strategy no matter what. So with that, first, what does growth ABM look like, and what kind of things are people doing in the growth? Like, how are they setting up? What kind of plays are they running? How are they working? How does this work? Good. Let's dig in there.
Totally agree. And then also remind me, because I want to get both of your thoughts on something that we haven't released yet.
Oh.
But we're really,
Pre-release.
Are we breaking news here?
We might be breaking some news here, which is the concept, and it's not anything crazy or new, but really putting some rigor behind it around building a go-to-market account portfolio. So taking the whole concept of your target account list and really driving unity across sales, marketing, and customer success, where instead of the ABM team or the growth ABM team having their own targeting or their own segmented list, sales has been account-based for years. They have their strategic, enterprise, mid-market, some type of self-serve or their PLG. Customer success has their list as well. How do you build a unified go-to-market account portfolio? And that is something that I definitely want to get both of your opinions on. But Craig, to your question on growth ABM, so how we'll see this being deployed in market is, again, you're covering hundreds or thousands of accounts, but not, this massive 30,000 target account list. You're getting more pointed. We'll see about 2,000 accounts on average through some of our research where it's right around that number in terms of how many accounts are being deployed if you're leveraging this for your integrated marketing teams or your demand gen team. And how they're doing it is based off of, again, informed revenue potential. So it's not just this tiered list based off of, oh, these are the large logo accounts that we're going to put in our tier one, which is our highest priority, the top accounts that we want to win from a business standpoint. You're not just taking these logos, throwing them in and saying, hey, this is our wish list of who we think we can go sell to. It's informed revenue potential. So based off of signals, whether it's contact engagement signals or account level signals, as well as, looking into the various different segments. So who are your best fit customers? Where can you actually get the LTV? Going in and analyzing, your actual customer base and having a informed opinion around these are the segments, or, for example, these are the industries that we're going to go after. And this is a data-backed reason as to why. Here are the sub-industries. So maybe it's healthcare, and then pharmaceuticals is the sub-industry that we should be going after. So what are the segments and the sub-segments or the micro-segments? Deeply understanding that, understanding your ICP, using that to inform your tier one, which is your smaller subset of accounts. They get deeper personalization. They're eligible for more tactics. So for example, maybe your tier one accounts would have direct mail as something you could partner with the sales team around, versus your tier two and your tier three accounts. Tier two is almost that, mid-level, where they still are a go-to-market strategic priority. They get dedicated resources, but not as much as your tier ones. And then tier three is more that scaled approach. So they're probably getting, digital or any type of tactic that you can do at large. But it's how much you're putting in from a resourcing perspective into the campaign, from a tactic perspective. And so that's the difference between, a tier one account versus a tier three. And then also, getting really, really pointed in that targeting aspect as well.
Right. Got it. Okay. But so you mentioned direct mail, what does a modern program look like? You could take any tier. What do they do?
Modern program. So from a campaign aspect, it is not we're going to do, a 30-day sprint, and these are the different pieces. We're going to have, direct mail in there. We'll maybe do a VIP executive dinner for these tier one accounts. We'll have custom landing page that we create that's really specific to their industry, their vertical, their pains. It's not doing that for 30 days. It's more of a holistic approach. So you are thinking about this campaign and how it's going to run for, the entirety of the year, or almost continuous. And so, what we're seeing work from a tactic perspective, the in account for, tier ones, it is doing really bespoke executive style engagements. Webinars are still working well, but anything that gets really personal and speaks directly to the pains of these people versus a generic, landing page or whatnot. Not sure if I'm explaining this very strong, but getting more pointed and targeted with how they are messaging to these accounts.
But on a webinar, then you were a personalized landing page. Is that what you mean, or you mean that it's just relevant to them?
Relevant to them. So almost having this, ABM playbook of all of these various tactics that can be deployed. So your webinar, your digital media, maybe it's paid LinkedIn ads, your executive VIP dinners, your executive engagement. So having your executives reach out to the buying group members in those target accounts. So almost listing out this full playbook of here are all the tactics that we have at our disposal that we can put into a campaign. And then based off of the tier that the account falls under, it dictates the eligibility from a tactical standpoint. And then they're taking those tactics and building this, ever running style of a campaign specific to those accounts. And then also looking at the different segments as well. So in growth ABM, you're probably going to be targeting, multiple industries. So thinking about on that campaign, how you're building bespoke and custom pieces tailored to the segments or tailored to the industry, for example.
Quick question for you. So I would say, for our listeners here, we've heard a lot of things so far about ABM that probably sound pretty similar, right? Like this is like a lot of this stuff is, kind of the basic blocking and tackling of ABM. But where we've seen the advances in go-to-market through AI, how are then we bringing AI into this process? Like, is it in the targeting and ICP? Is it in, the rollout and execution of the programs? Like, where does that come in, and where are you seeing, and how are people utilizing that, and what types of results are they seeing?
Some of the biggest areas, research. So again, if you're building these really personalized campaigns, whether it's one-to-one or growth ABM, how can you, execute this really deep industry-based, sub-industry-based, account-specific industry or account-specific research? How can you do that at a greater scale instead of paying, tens of thousands of dollars to a research firm
Sure.
to go gather all of that information? So research is a huge one. Content personalization. We've seen some really cool roadmaps as well for a few of the landing page companies where they're using AI, and even building agents to do personalization at scale to bring specific content recommendation as well. So research, content, building your target account list is another piece.
Sure.
Where they're analyzing the different buying intent signals, go-to-market engagement touch points, so spanning across first party, second party, third party signals, and using a predictive model to build these great target account lists that are so much better than just thinking about, here's our generic ICP, let's just go pull these accounts from some form of data vendor and then start doing marketing towards them.
Yep.
That's another aspect. And the biggest impact that we're seeing is on the scale of where instead of taking scale and efficiency, where looking at one-to-one or one-to-few, instead of taking 3 months to wait for your account specific research to come in, building content and copywriting from a campaign building aspect, it's shortening the window for these foundational pieces to be built, which is allowing more accounts to be part of the program, so you can get that greater coverage without sacrificing personalization and without sacrificing, you're having to use more generic tactics.
What are you seeing that's just like kind of knocking your socks off, right? Because like every day it seems like we hear about some crazy use case or some crazy story, some crazy application of either a combination of AI tools or, people who are building like AI agents to do like end-to-end workflows. Like, where are you seeing like, because I know, we've all been sort of hip to the idea that like, hey, you can write content, you can use this for like much more advanced scoring, you can use it for some scaling applications, but like, you don't have to name the vendor or like the results, but like somebody did something and you were like, holy shit, I've never thought about that. That was like super impressive.
I'll tell you the exact opposite, because that is really more the sentiment from what I've been seeing. It's less on the, wow, these companies are doing this, incredibly well, or this is a really great use case for AI.
Yeah.
It's more conversely where you go in these organizations, you look under the hood, and it's like, they're just using these really they don't even know how to properly prompt in a chat GPT or an AI. They aren't very advanced in AI.
Yeah.
Some companies are. We actually had a scenario where we quoted a ABM team who saw crazy gains, cost efficiencies as well from using AI, and we were asked to pull it because their CEO had a mandate where they couldn't use AI in any of their processes, but they were doing it anyways. And so, we're seeing a lot more of that versus really pushing the boundaries with this new technology.
Yeah.
That's the craziest thing from my perspective.
Well, it doesn't surprise me. Go ahead, Craig. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say I was going to give a Matt-ism.
Go.
What Davis is essentially pointing out is something you say, which is, no, you have to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then you use AI. This is chronic in all three go-to-market revolutions from a tech perspective that I've been involved in, which was MarTech, sales tech, and now go-to-market AI tech, is that everyone gets excited about the tech, that the tech is going to solve my problems that I don't know, right? Whereas the most successful companies understand what they need to do, and then they use AI. So like if we go in and someone's like, well, we're using all AI, but they don't understand the strategy, what they want to achieve with these companies. Like, so for example, if you just take something that we've talked about ad nauseum on this call, which is targeting. Well, I mean, dude, like the data will help you, but like if you don't have some idea, this is ridiculous. Yeah. Like, what are we doing here?
Right.
If the segmentation decisions that Davis brought up, you can have data help you, but like you got to believe like what you're about to go do. And you have to understand it, and it's got to be part of your strategy. Like the best people come in and say, well, here's what we're going to go do. Right. And then programmatically, there could be some really good ideas from this show. For example, no plug, you should listen to this show or follow us on LinkedIn or follow our LinkedIn page, by the way, Matt. Did you see that?
Yeah, you wore that
to
in
get
there.
Yeah, I did. That was cool. Years of sales. But if you don't figure that out first, then you can't be successful with go-to-market with AI. In my opinion, in the sales and marketing space in particular. And it's like, like Dan Gottlieb, when he's on the show, he's like, look, like, the best AI implementations are not when someone says, well, we need to use AI. What should we do? It's when someone comes in and says, I want AI to give me a QBR that captures data from my CRM, my product data set, and from my ERP. I want it to be a 4-pager that we deliver in a 30-minute meeting in Vegas for our QBR meeting. Those are the ones that are successful. The ones that aren't successful, this might even say, we want to do QBRs. What can tech do? That doesn't work. Or just what can tech do in general? So like, I'm not, that's not surprising to me, Davis, on that. And that happened in the first ABM thing, was that people, and they still do, by the way, let's be honest, they equate the vendors to doing ABM.
Yeah.
I have this vendor, we're doing ABM. Whoa. Like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
Or, so like you have to delineate that. I'm just going to go on a couple things that Davis brought up and then talk about. So what we found really early at Topo with the account-based was that there was something really simple that you brought up earlier on your new release, Davis. I'll just give you this tidbit, which was, marketing was doing all of this work. So Marketo and Matt was at Marketo, so they were doing their thing, and they were driving all of these leads. And they did this thing called lead scoring to determine them, and it was working okay, especially in the corporate market, but it wasn't working in the enterprise, and it wasn't working because many people didn't sort of figure out the company, right? Whether the company was a fit. It was always content sort of led us down that path, right? And so what that created was a schism. It wasn't supposed to. It was supposed to bring everyone together. Schism was sales. So sales then started outbounding like crazy. That's when predictable revenue came out. And that was my big thing when I was touring the world on ABM. I'd say, how can marketing be in their heyday, generating all these leads, yet we've seen the biggest ramp in outbound sales development I have ever seen, and everyone's reading predictable revenue? There was a very simple issue we saw, which was we weren't using the same list. We weren't using the same criteria to figure out what a good account was. And that actually was the most simplistic but most important thing we would do from an ABM perspective, was to get everyone to agree that these are the types of accounts. There's an addendum. Are you ready? Oh my God, did my sound go off? Hold on a sec.
What?
That's amazing.
No. What?
You guys there?
Yeah, we've got.
Yeah.
Hello?
Oh no.
We're waiting for the
Hello.
addendum.
Yeah.
Hello.
I went with the hello.
Yeah, you did.
Siri's talking to me. Hold on one sec. How do you,
Leaving us hanging here.
dude, how do you get this Siri thing off? Hold on one sec. There we go. Okay. That was amazing. You got to admit, that was amazing. Stop it, dude. I mean, I see. That's why I went immediately on Davis's tech thing. I was like, oh, I'll jump in. Okay. The second thing is that there's an addendum, which is I actually don't believe you can control sales or sales development. And with Clay and with these other tools, you definitely will not. So you have to do your best. Like either one is, you want to agree generally on the ICP and the target accounts, and then sales is going to do their thing. They just are. And you can't let it drive you nuts. So but any kind of joint marketing, any kind of integrated plays, generally speaking, you want to have a set targets, but you can't lose your mind on the fact that the SDRs are downloading whatever they want out of Clay. What you have to do is use the data to show what accounts are working and what's not working. But right now, we will continue to see essentially shadow target account list creation. It's always been like that. But the key is, one, if it's crazy on the sales and SDR side, I tell marketers all the time, well, then just you do your ICP thing and you send them the right things and the numbers will eventually play out. Or what's best is you do have this baseline of what the target accounts are. You agree to it, you get executive alignment on it, and then the way you track opportunities, ICP opportunities versus other, and you come back to that, because we are going to see incredible shadow target account list generation right now, because it's too easy for these guys to do that.
Yeah, we are living in shadow AI right now in a big way, all over the GTM org.
What do you mean? What are you talking about?
There are so many people in a go-to-market organization who are just hey man, I'm building an AI that does this, I'm building an AI that does that. I think the next big frontier is just
you're right.
the enterprise AI license, where you're sort of bringing all AI agents together. But sorry, I didn't mean
you're right. No, I get it now. That is true. That you speak the truth. Yeah. All right, so what? Why is that funny?
Well, no, because I did a bow. He liked the bow.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, I missed the bow.
Davis, thank you for not. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, Sam, you should laugh about that. Should make you happy. That should make you happy. All right, so Davis, sorry, I wanted to jump in because account base is a passionate area of mine. The other thing I wanted to ask you about was tracking and reporting. It's boring, guys, but that was always the problem. And I'm going to make a comment to you that you can take to your customers. Now that I'm at a venture firm, I have learned something, which is if you train a organization on a new set of metrics or how to look at things, they have to train the board. Mm-hmm. They often do not do that.
Right.
And so like when someone's created, like, you know, we had John Miller on and we told him, hey dude, like work backwards from a board deck. Because it happened with ABM where it's like, well, this is great. We won't track leads anymore. Well, we had spent 15 years training the board to look at leads. So now, like, if we don't like effectively move the people that make the financial decisions, then actually the program's going to be, I mean, generally they'll let you work, but you aren't effectively communicating it to the top. And I think it's one of the reasons why Matt likes to say that we've taken a big step back on having CMOs at the executive table. Mm-hmm. You know, whatever we do from a tracking perspective, like I've seen lots of board decks, like it can't be too granular, but it can't be high level without explanation, especially if you're moving off leads.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's really important. Okay, let's let Davis talk. So how are people, like, what are they tracking their programs on today, and how are they doing it?
So this is something we've spent a lot of time on as well, because when you think about the board decks, and I'm sure John Miller brought this up too, but so many organizations are stuck on serious decisions, demand waterfall, and it's the 2006 version that companies are still running. And it is simple and easy from that mathematical standpoint where you're working back from, you know, the lead to MQL to SQL or SAL, SQL, and all of these different stages in the linear format. But I think in 2025, everybody agrees that the way in which buyers buy is not linear in any capacity. And so when looking at how successful ABM programs are actually tracking and measuring and measuring their success, improving the correlation versus causation effect, and also thinking about how that translates back up to the board deck. It's funny because we have this whole analogy of your account-based go-to-market team. So thinking about marketing, customer success, sales, all your revenue functions should perform like an orchestra. And when looking at the orchestra, you have various different levels where you have the conductor level, which would be your executive team, what they're presenting to the board as well, how they're reviewing overall business performance. You have your section leaders, which would be your VP, senior director level, where they're not the conductor, but they're leading their individual specific sectors or sections. And then you actually have the operators or the musicians who are building the campaigns, doing the tactical work. And so when thinking about these three different levels of metrics, they should all roll up into one another. And on the ABM side, we actually built a new unified data model and framework that we call the account-based arrow, which completely takes the demand waterfall and brings it into actual account-based measurement and reporting. And it has the architecture for your RevOps team and your marketing ops to actually get off of the MQLs and build the infrastructure without needing a platform, or with a platform from an ABM standpoint, so that you can get off of the MQL hamster wheel and start thinking about ABM metrics, which are much more focused around account-based buying journey stages, contact engagement, buying group engagement, and then, of course, all of your pipeline and revenue and win rate as well, and sales velocity. But what I really want to drill in here from a measurement and reporting standpoint, because this is the area where we we really focus in on getting off of the MQLs and thinking about, okay, if we're going after net new accounts, how do we progress the account from unengaged to engaged to qualified or MQA or XQA, whatever QA you're using, and then active pipeline, closed won. So what does that look like from a whole account standpoint? That works really well if it's a new logo. When it comes to your existing customers, especially when you're pursuing really large enterprises, they're already a customer of yours, so that funnel, that account-based journey stage funnel is going to break. And so what you have to do is you have to look at the layer below that, which is the actual contact engagement. And the way in which we define contact engagement is first party. So it has to be, whether it spans across customer success, marketing, or sales, a direct interaction with your company. So we're not talking some type of buying intent signal or even a buying trigger like a job change. That's not contact engagement. Contact engagement is a meaningful interaction with your company. So that could be, maybe they attended a marketing event, they had a conversation with sales, they responded back to a sales email, they downloaded something from your website, they filled out a form. Those are all contact engagement signals. So looking at it from a overall account lens as to, okay, how many contacts are actually engaging with us, that is a good pulse on the account.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, the end all be all, because again, if you're going after a really large org like a Bank of America, it's not going to be that helpful for you or sales to just look at this really broad list, but then actually taking that overall account list and saying, all right, who are the priority contacts that we believe are part of the buying group? And then as you have these open opportunities, associating those priority contacts, and if you identify new contacts, associating those contacts to the opportunity and looking at the engagement of the buying group, and then partnering with your sales team to say, we only have 30% of these buying group contacts engaged right now. Previously, last quarter, we were up around 75%. So what's going on here? How do we actually partner to use some of the tactics in that playbook to go get these key buying group members re-engaging? So looking at contact engagement signals, looking at buying group engagement, looking at the account-based journey stages, that is one piece, along with the revenue metrics. But those three layers, people get wrong so often.
Yeah.
And one of the misconceptions about account-based too is they're not thinking about the contacts and the buying groups. They just look at the overall account-based journey stage progression. And that, I attribute to some of the platforms who were really historically pushing that from a lens, and now a lot of them are transitioning to thinking about the other layers. But you have to think about those pieces. That's how you get the partnership with sales. That's how you can actually do strong reporting, measuring the signals, analyzing the signal patterns, and that is the replacement for this whole MQL industrial complex. Shout out to Kerry Cunningham for pushing that.
Yeah, Terry. They wrote the book on it. Fascinating stuff. I will say, fascinating stuff. There's so many changes that are occurring in the ABM space. It's great to have somebody back in the zone doing the hard hitting reporting and analysis.
That's the transaction.
That's the
Davis.
transaction.
Thank you
baby.
very much, buddy. Appreciate it. Good job. Good job today. Your story will be part of a montage of other stories as well. That's a huge win.
Yeah,
for
get in
you.
the montage.
Keep doing your thing. Keep doing your thing. We need a account-based research like crazy. So you're fighting the good fight, buddy.
Well, thanks so much for having me on, Matt and Craig. Matt, great to meet you.
Great to meet you too. Thanks for joining us for another episode of The Transaction. Craig and I really appreciate the fact that you've listened all the way to the end. What are you actually doing here? For show notes and other episodes, please visit us at thetransactionpod.com. Like and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other place you get your podcast from. Either you have walked away from your podcast device, or this is playing somewhere in the background. Someone in your house would really like for you to shut this off now.